Crochet's Financial Puzzle Plan is a show dedicated to helping you understand your financial path and the puzzle pieces that build it. Join us each week as Chris explores various topics in the financial industry with his guests and your calls at 781-834-9639. Here's your host, Chris Shea of BPS Financial Services.
Happy Tuesday evening before Thanksgiving. Coming up here in, less than 48 hours. Everyone will be stuffed and plumped and sitting on the couches, watching football, doing dishes, whatever your Thanksgiving traditions are. I hope you enjoy them immensely. I am Chris Shea of BPS Financial Services and out of Marshfield. Again, this is our third week now doing the financial puzzle pieces. We got one phone call last week. For those of you that haven't been paying attention, and from the lack of calls, it's probably a lot of people out there. And by the way, I don't expect any calls yet. You got to get to know me and like me first before you call me. But
I like you, Chris. Don't worry.
You know, if you want to call in, feel free. Ask some questions. But the whole purpose of this is there's a lot of financial advisors out there that have their radio shows and they talk about the investments in the marketplace. And I could absolutely do that without any challenge whatsoever. But the way I always look at your finances is a holistic, complete picture of everything that goes on around it. So the first week we were here, 2 weeks ago, we had Leon Marion talk about real estate. Last week we had Ben Cody talk about your estate planning. And one of the other big pieces of the financial puzzle that people tend to not always understand and get really scared about it because it's a big deal is the mortgage world. So I want to try and demystify that for a lot of people, talk about what the marketplace is, talk about how it kind of works all together and fits in with the rest of your finances for your family, because nothing is done in isolation, right? You can't save for retirement if you don't have everything in order. And usually for most Americans, the American dream has always been buy a home, have the white picket fence, and the way the world has paid for that has historically been the mortgage. Now, there's a lot of people out there right now that have sold their homes recently and are flush with cash because of the pandemic. But the mortgage for a lot of people is still one of the areas that is a necessity to achieve that American dream that has been given to us. And for some people, it is absolutely the right thing to do. For some people, a mortgage and buying a home is a daunting thing that they never want to do. I've been a homeowner. We had to sell the house when I got my divorce. I'm not sure if I want to buy a house again for a multitude of reasons that if you want to ask me about, we can get into them. But I've got a fairly decent living set of circumstances right now. And being single with my one daughter of, she's 13 years old, 7th grader in Marshfield, I'm not sure if I want to buy a home and be stuck with it because in 5 or 6 years, I might not be living in the same spot just because of the life circumstances. So getting a house, buying a mortgage is a big deal. And it's a life choice and something you got to talk about. And I am not an expert in mortgages. I know enough to get people really involved in the process of having a conversation with a professional. But, and there's always a but, I know a lot of good people that do them and have done them for a long time and are really good at them. And one of them is here to join me. He is from MBA Mortgage. Matt, I'm going to let you do your own personal introduction because I found that as much as I can introduce people, they do a lot better job introducing themselves to the world than I do. So, Matt, welcome to the show, and we'll be every third Tuesday of the month going forward for a little bit here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the invite. It's exciting. It's my first time on radio. I probably have a face for radio, so it works out well.
That's my joke. You can't use my jokes. No, I'm kidding.
Stealing jokes from the host. Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. I'm with MBA Mortgage. I'm a vice president, one of the partners there.
Name, rank, serial number, all that sort of stuff.
Yep. So I'm the vice president. I've been a loan officer for the last 21 years, and now my role is shifting a lot more into the operational side. But I'm still very much involved in loan officer activity every single day. We were founded in 2005. We're located in Quincy, but we also have branches in North Quincy, Worcester, Athol, and Falmouth.
What is it, before we get forward, I'm going to treat this like people don't know a whole lot of stuff. So a loan officer by definition is?
So a loan officer is someone who can negotiate rates and terms. And in the broker world, they have to be licensed. So it's a little different from a loan officer at a bank. A banking loan officer can have an MLS number. They can have basically a certificate, but they're not licensed. They don't have to pass a federal exam. Whereas a broker, you have to actually pass a federal exam. You have to get licensed in individual states. And this gives you the ability to negotiate rates and terms. Now, being a broker, we are advocating on behalf of the clients. We're arranging loans. We're not lending money. So that's the big difference between a broker and a lender and the primary role of a loan officer.
So you're the broker. Example of a lender would be?
So example of a lender would be on the retail side. It would be, your South Shore Bank. What's the bank that just opened up here? Coastal, I believe it is.
Yep.
Quincy Credit Union is another example. In the wholesale side, you have lenders like United Wholesale Mortgage or Rocket Mortgage or PennyMac. Some big name companies that will originate your loan, and then they pretty much make their money selling it on the secondary market.
Okay, so again, for somebody that doesn't know what we're talking about with jargon, originating a loan is?
So originating a loan would be taking your application, submitting it into underwriting, and then getting it to the closing table.
Okay. And I know that when I got my first mortgage, it was in 2016. Submitting the application was kind of a daunting thing.
Yeah.
It's a process and a half.
It is. They've simplified the actual application. The application used to be geared towards the loan officer obtaining information, and they've switched that up in the past year or two where more onus on the borrower to provide the information. So it's a little bit of a different spin on it. The biggest thing for a lot of clients isn't necessarily filling that out. It's all the paperwork that goes to support it.
Yeah.
So submitting your pay stubs, your bank statements, your W-2s, tax returns in some cases. And then everything kind of spins off that. If you're divorced, you have a divorce decree. You might have child support. You might have alimony. So there's a lot of different, conditions that will spawn off other conditions. For the most part, at the initial application phase, we're going to collect some basic documents. So, like I said, pay stubs, W-2s, form of ID, bank statements, stuff like that.
That's great, and it's a lot of stuff. Why, before we get into that, more of the details on that, why did you even get into this business? Years ago.
Kind of fell into it. So I graduated college in 2002. I attended Fairfield University down in Connecticut. I came out of there with an economics degree, and I was actually looking to get into investment banking. At the time, I was working
Why
construction.
did you want to do investment banking?
Because leaving college, I thought that's what I was supposed to do. With an economics degree, I guess,
Yeah, you go work on Wall Street, right?
Right. So, I was working construction for a local company out of Weymouth, and I loved it. But, I knew I didn't want to do that long term.
Particularly on days like today.
Yeah, really cold days or, 95-degree days in the summer.
Summertime.
I actually had an opportunity to go back to college and coach lacrosse at the University of Hartford.
Really?
And
so did you play lacrosse?
I did. I played at Fairfield. I grew up in
What sport-
Weymouth.
What,
and
what position?
I was a defenseman or a long stick midi, if people know the game. Yep. So a lot of running.
Yeah. A lot of running, a little bit of checking.
Yep, just a bit. Yeah, a lot of bruises.
Yeah. So you had a chance to go back and coach.
So yeah, I wasn't having a lot of luck finding a job right out of school. So I had interviewed with a mortgage company out of Braintree, and I wasn't really sure if it was for me. It was 100% commission. It was kind of scary. I had talked to my father, who was a CPA. I talked to some other people in my life who kind of explained the risks of all commission. And my father actually introduced me to his business partner's son, who also worked at a mortgage company. So having some familiarity with that family, I went and interviewed with them. And they hired me on the spot, which I've soon realized that a lot of mortgage companies will do.
Because there's no risk for the mortgage.
There's no risk. Yeah, it was 100% commission. The same week, I got accepted to be a grad assistant at University of Hartford, and I was really excited about that. But for a lot of different reasons, I ended up staying in this area and going to this mortgage company, ABC Mortgage out of Braintree, and it was great. I loved it right from the very beginning. The creativeness you can have in getting someone into a home. Finding different angles, the analysis work was exciting to me. Maybe I'm too much of a math nerd, but I was into it. I really liked it, and I liked the sales aspect.
See, when you say you're too much of a math nerd, it depends upon your point of view and what you're needed to do.
Yep.
Right? Like, so my daughter, we both have kids that are in Marshfield Middle School.
Yep.
At Furnace Brook. I had the pleasure of going in, and my daughter's in the accelerated math in 7th grade. So she's doing 7th, 8th, and 9th grade in 7th and 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you think math is fun now, wait until your kid has to do that.
Yeah.
But I went in there, and I'm kind of a math nerd too. But I was talking with the teacher because I wanted to find out how she was doing. She's telling me she's having some struggles. Really, she's not. She's just, like most all 12, 13, 14-year-old girls going through that stage of life where things are iffy and,
Yep.
Not knowing is a challenge sometimes. So we were talking, and I said, hey, I got a math thing that you can geek out on to the teacher. And she was like, what? I'm like, any number between 10 and 99, I can multiply it by 11 in like half a second. And she was like, what? I'm like, yeah, give me a number. So give me a number between 10 and 99. I'll multiply it by 11. And we'll talk about this geeky math stuff for a couple seconds.
44.
484.
Wow, it's impressive.
Well, not really. Right. So it's actually a very simple trick that my grandfather taught me when I was probably 7 or 8. No, yeah. When do you learn multiplication? 5th grade, 4th grade?
Yeah, about 4th grade.
4th grade. So, 10 years old. I'm now 51. So 40 years I've done this trick. And it's very simple, right? You take the two numbers. So you said 44. Mm-hmm. You put them on the ends. You add them together. And that's the middle number.
Yeah.
484.
Never thought of it that way.
I didn't think of it, but that's the trick. And so then, the teacher got all geeky on me too. She's like, "Oh my God, I think I knew that, but I forgot it." And she goes, "Well, what happens if you do like 78?" And I said, "Well, you still put the numbers on the end. You add them together, you get 15. Just got to carry the 1 over. So 858." And she was like, "Oh my God." So that when you talk about people geeking out on math and solving problems and stuff, I'm right there with you. I love figuring out the and that's kind of why I called it's a financial puzzle, right? That people have to figure out.
Yeah.
Which is the whole purpose of the show, is saying, hey, look, you got big components in your life, and you've got to just make them all work, right? Again, the real estate market has been bananas the last 3 years.
Yep.
And from every realtor I talk to, they say it's not going to change anytime soon. It's still going to be bananas. The mortgage world is even more crazy
I would agree with that right now. Yep.
because interest rates are going up. Well, they're steadying now, which still so. You're a homeowner, right?
Yes.
Guessing.
Yep.
When did you buy your house?
I bought the house I'm in now. I bought in 2015.
What was the interest rate then? Do you know off the top of your head?
I want to say it was 5.25.
5.2. What are the interest rates now?
About 7.5.
Okay.
They just came down in the last week or so.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Because stuff went on at the Fed.
Yep.
Right. My parents bought their first. I'm from Hanover. My parents bought their home in Hanover in 1969. They bought their first house, and that was so far back that both my parents were working. My dad was a teacher in Boston. My mom was a teacher in Marshfield. The only income that counted on the mortgage was my dad's,
Why is that?
because back in 1969, the assumption was the woman would get pregnant, have kids, and never work again.
Yep.
So all of the income had to be supported by the male's salary or a job or whatever, they had. And so when people are like, oh, the real estate market has gone up so much because of this, that, and the other thing, I'm like, you got to remember, you only had one income.
Yeah.
50 years ago, there was only one income that mattered. Even 40 years ago, it was still not, accepted that the woman would be out in the workforce working.
Sure.
Right. So my mom, she became a Tupperware salesperson, right? Because she was bored as hell taking care of a couple kids. And she did that. She did really well at it. But every dollar she made was fun money. So we'd go to Plymouth for a month and rent a cottage out. And people were like, oh my gosh, how can you afford that? I tell people now, they go, how do you afford that? I go, because back then, my mom's money was all play money.
Yeah, the bank basically made you live within your means
Yeah,
to qualify.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They said, we are not going to let you fail. So they bought their house in Hanover for $10,000, $12,000, whatever it was. My cousins bought it from us in '89 when my parents bought their house across town in Hanover. My cousin just sold it for $550,000.
Wow.
And I think they bought it from my mom for $100 and something or other. But my parents bought a house in Union Street for $225,000, $250,000 in 1989. Do you know what you're a little bit young to be knowing what the mortgage rate, but take a guess what the mortgage rate was then.
I'm going to assume it was probably 17, 18%.
In '89, it was down to 12.
Down to 12. Okay.
Right, but in the early '80s, it was 17%.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
when I hear people getting freaked out about 7%,
Yeah, I mean, I got in the business in '02, and it was 6.25. By 2005, it was up to 7.5. So it was right where it is now. And, I work with a lot of people who just got into the business in the last 4 or 5 years. They're not used to something being over 5%, let alone over 8%. So it's not my first rodeo in these types of markets, and I'm sure it won't be my last. Now, I mean, do I think rates are going to drop to 2.5%, 3% again? I'm going to say likely not, but no one ever thought they'd drop to 5 or 4 or 3.5. So, you never know. I think in terms of where they're going, I think we have another year or so riding this 7 to 8% range. Maybe dip into the 6s, and then I think in 2025 we'll see them settle down, somewhere below 6 for a little bit, and then we'll go from there.
one of my mom was a realtor for 35 years, so she knew mortgage people up and down the corridor of Hanover, down to Plymouth, up to Quincy, Braintree area. She'd always tell people, don't worry about the mortgage rate. You can always refinance.
Mm-hmm.
What what is your advice for people that get freaked out over 0.5% or something like that? And how do you talk people through the challenges of the change in purchasing power when the interest rate changes?
Yeah, so what we saw over the last year or so was, prices were on the rise, and interest rates were on the rise. So typically we'll see prices on the rise and maybe rates are coming down or vice versa. But, the last year or so was a perfect storm of chaos in our industry. We just get out of the markets where people locked in at 3%, maybe 3.5%. And
They don't want to sell their house.
they don't want to sell it now, and that we run into an inventory problem now, and then on top of that, we were pre-approving everybody at certain price points, assuming 6%, and then when rates go up to 7.5%, 8%, it knocks them out of that price point. So, just trying to manage that is a challenge in itself. So we saw quite a few people who wanted to buy, who just simply couldn't. The payment at 8% for a home that was maybe $500,000 2 years ago and now is $650,000 or $700,000 today. You're talking $1,000 plus in that monthly payment. So that has scared a lot of people off. But
And there's always a but.
there's always a but. The appreciation in the real estate market is going to happen. So right now we got a lot of people saying, well, I want to wait for it to settle and I want to wait for the prices to come back down. If we look at the last 60 to 80 years, prices have only really plummeted, 3 times or so? And big crashes is what I mean.
Plummet is not usually a big word around it.
Right.
Maybe plummet is maybe twice.
Right. You had the crisis in 08, 09. I don't think we're going to see something like that again. Don't get me wrong. Prices will come down. Prices will soften. They'll settle. They always do. But, trying to time the absolute bottom of that market, it's near impossible, in my opinion. It's like catching a sharp knife, right? You might catch it, and otherwise you might cut your hand open. So, I think getting into a home earlier than later makes more sense because, like your mother said, you can always refinance, right? You might, quote unquote, overpay for a home now, but over time that's going to appreciate, and you'll always have an opportunity to drop your rate, right? Yeah. You're never always going to have an opportunity to buy lower, or buy that same house lower. And if you do, kudos to you. But
Miracles do happen.
It's really tough to time that. And I say the same thing with interest rates. Someone who locked in at 8%, they should start looking at 7.5% or less to refinance. Because of the size of the loan amounts these days, 0.5% can make a big difference, right? I know there's the old rule of thumb of wait for it to drop 1%. Well, 1% on a $300,000 loan is much different than 1% on an $800,000 loan.
Yeah, everything's relative.
Right.
And everything has a interdependency. Again, the name of the show being Financial Puzzle.
Yep.
Because there's no hard and fast rules around any of this. And people that had hard and fast rules, you probably need to relook at the playbook because it's going to change. It has changed.
Right. And just like I said about catching a falling knife, it's the same with interest rates. If you're waiting for that to hit rock bottom, more likely than not, you're going to miss it, right? So I've always told people, try to get into the bottom third of the bowl, right? If you can get into the bottom third, you should be comfortable. At that point, don't worry about 0.1%. Don't worry about 0.25%. Look at it from a monthly payment standpoint, right? If you can save $200-$300 a month, why wouldn't you,
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I used to work with a guy who, it was a little too salesy for me, but he used to tell everyone if you saw $100 bill on the ground every single month on your way to work, would you pick it up?
Hell yes.
Right. Again, a little too salesy for me. I'm more of a analyze and present type of person, but he always made a valid point, right? If the savings is worth it, and you think you can recoup your closing costs with those savings, why not do it, right? Closing costs are going to get rolled into the loan, right? And a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to add another extra, $3,500, $4,000 to my loan amount.
Do you know what that is over 30 years?
It's peanuts.
It's like $10 a month.
Right. So,
At the most.
So for saving $200 a month, but adding $10 worth of closing costs, people need to be able to see that, right? So our job is to show them that it's not as daunting of a task as you think, right? Closing costs realistically are not that high compared to what you're borrowing, or the value, yeah.
It's funny you talk about timing the market, right? So there's a decade from 2000 to 2009, and I'm going to put on my financial advisor hat and talk geeky financial advising stuff. There was a large cap mutual fund that was like the best mutual fund of the decade. Its performance on average was like 18%, right? So if you invested $1 in 2000, you got 18% return every single year on average for the entire decade, right?
Yep.
Great return, phenomenal. Tripled your money or close to it. Do you know what the average investor's return in that mutual fund was? Take a guess. All you can do is be wrong, because you will be wrong.
Average return in that mutual fund?
For each individual investor.
30%.
30? No.
No, 12%?
It's got to be less than the 18.
Oh, all right. Yeah, you said 18. All right. So I would say 12%.
Negative 10.
Really?
Really. And this goes kind of to the feelings that people have around money and what you were talking about with the 0.5% or whatever, The reason is because if you remember the 2000s, you had the run up from 2000 to 2003 with a dot-com bubble.
Yep.
That then burst. So people missed the early 2000 bubble. They bought in 2002. The bubble burst. Everything crashed. They bought it at 100. They sold it at 50 because it was going down. And next thing you know, they don't reinvest until 2006 when they've already gotten that big run up of 20, 30, 40%. Now they reinvest in 2006, 2008, bop, it goes, plummets. They sell out again after it went back down. They again lose 15, 20% because they bought on the emotion rather than saying, hey, look, this is the long-term thing. I'm going to ride it out. And over time, it's going to show up is the best way possible for me. And that's why the feelings that you talked about with people and how they interact with their mortgages and the challenges around 0.5% or, when you actually put it in, this is the amount of money you'll save, this is the amount of money that will be added to your bill, do it.
Right. And a lot of people don't realize it doesn't hurt to look at it. We don't charge fees to do a quick analysis for you.
Yeah.
The credit pull isn't going to hurt your credit as much as you think, right? So a lot of people don't want to pull the credit because it's a hard inquiry. And, we're a mortgage company. So once one of us pulls it, you could have 10 people pull it in the next 30, 45 days, and it's only going to count as one inquiry.
Right.
It doesn't hurt to look at what the options are. If they don't make sense, you haven't spent any money.
Yeah.
You haven't wasted our time. So look at it. And if anything, what you're going to get out of it is maybe I do need the rate to come down a little more. Let's set a strike point, right? So let's say, hey, 7.5 doesn't work. Let's look at it at 7, right? And we can do that pre-analysis and then say, all right, well, once the rate hits a certain point, this makes sense, and you agree, we need to beat people into underwriting, because if it makes sense for you, it makes sense for a lot of people.
And then the market's going to go back up.
Yep, you don't want to get caught in underwriting. You want to be able to beat the rush.
Cool. All right. Well, it's now 6:30. WMEX 1510 AM Boston, 101 FM Quincy, WMEXBoston.com. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, cheap shots for either Matt or myself, you can call in at 781-834-9639. But we're going to take a quick little break here, fire up a commercial for myself, and go from there. We'll see you back in a couple minutes. Are you fit to retire? I'm Chris Shea, financial advisor at BPS Financial Services in Marshfield. I work with clients to create a 100-day plan that can help get you started so that you can get the most out of your retirement. You've worked your whole life towards your goal of retirement. Let BPS Financial Services put together a plan that will help you enjoy your retirement. Find out how a 100-day plan tailored to you can help you get started in your retirement at fit2retire.com/Chris-Shea. Or call 781-733-5996. That's 781-733-5996. And now for my fast red disclosure, as this has been compliance approved.
Chris Shea is a registered representative offering securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA/SIPC, a broker-dealer and registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity, located at 752 Ocean Street, Marshfield, Massachusetts, 02050.
So, how are the kids?
Well, Emily made the honor roll.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, we're really proud of her. Tyler, on the other hand, though,
What's going on?
he's been moody lately, just feeling down and not like himself.
Oh, we've been there. Nick was struggling last spring. He was so anxious and stressed.
Really? What helped?
Well, he joined the soccer team, and ever since, he's been a lot happier. He has more energy, he's less stressed, and he's definitely in a better mood at home. It's made a huge difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad he's getting out of the house, he's getting some exercise, and he's off his phone for once. It's been good for his mental health.
Sounds like it's been good for your mental health, too.
Participating in Massachusetts high school sports improves students' physical and mental health. Encourage your son or daughter to get involved. This message presented by the MIAA and the Massachusetts Secondary Schools Athletic Directors Association.
All right. MIA, we just were talking about the ad there. I was going to talk about something around mortgages, but something that most people may not know is I was a high school basketball referee when I was in college. I went to UMass Amherst, and I actually refereed high school soccer when I was here and got to do basketball. And this guy at the UMass intercollegiate athletic intramural department was like, "Hey, you're pretty good. You might want to think about doing this as a gig." And back then I was getting $33 a game to do like girls 7th grade basketball for an hour. And I was like, really? Like, I'm getting paid $5 an hour, $5 a game at the UMass intramurals, or $33. I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
So I went and I passed the test and became a referee for my junior and senior years in college. I got pretty good at it. And one day in December of 1993, it was finals week, and I got a call from a guy that I knew who he did college games. He was an actual Division II or III college referee. And he called me up and he said, "Chris, I need your help with a scrimmage." And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to help you, but I got this big 7th or 8th grade girls basketball game that I'm getting graded on so I can be moved up in the ranks." And he looks and, we argued for what probably was about 10 seconds. But for me, it seemed like about a minute looking back at it. And he goes, "Okay, Chris, meet me at the Mullen Center in 20 minutes. And you know what the Mullen Center is, right?
Yep.
For those of you that don't know, that's the 8,000 seat arena where the UMass men's hockey team plays now, the men's basketball team plays, the women's basketball team plays. So I'm like a senior in college, And I'm like, okay, I'll be there. So I put on my referee gear. I show up at the Mullen Center, and I go into the gym, and it's an empty stadium except for the UMass men's basketball team and this traveling group of semi-professional basketball players from a group called Marathon Oil. And they would go out and they'd play, and you could see them actually in scrimmages, but this was an off-the-book scrimmage. And yes, the coach at the time was John Calipari. And yes, Marcus Camby was on the court. And it was a team that almost, I think they went to the Sweet 16 that year.
Yep.
And I'll never forget this because one of the guards was Mike Williams. And this kid from Marathon Oil shot a three-pointer from the corner. Mike Williams fouled him, and I didn't blow my whistle because I'm a senior in college. These guys are like, I'm going to the games. I'm a crazy, nutty fan. And I hear this voice behind me. Son, get that bleeping whistle out of you. Bleeping, bleep, bleep. I got John Calipari screaming at me to call a foul. So I'm like, okay, scared to death. Next time down, same kid shoots a three-pointer. Mike Williams fouls him. Blow my whistle, call the foul. Up jumps Coach Calipari screaming at Mike Williams. You dumb idiot. What are you doing fouling him in the corner? This stupid kid who doesn't know his elbow from his whistle is calling a foul on you? What is a real referee going to do in a game? All of a sudden, it dawned on me why I was there.
Yeah.
I was there for him to have an excuse to yell at his players. So guess what I did for the next 2 hours?
Got yelled at?
I didn't get yelled at all.
No?
I called every violation possible against the UMass men's basketball team.
Wow.
And Coach Calipari screamed at them.
Wow.
I called Marcus Camby for a travel when he moved his pivot foot maybe 2 inches. I called everything possible. I called nothing against the other team. Unless it was a clear, you got annihilated.
Yeah.
But if it was a touch foul, didn't call it. Just let it go. And at the end, took off. A couple months later, I was playing pickup basketball in the gym against Derek Kellogg, who was a player, and Dana Dingle was on our team.
Yeah.
And this is one of the times where you realize that there's a difference between an athlete, a college athlete, a Division I athlete, and a pro, right? Because I was playing against Derek Kellogg, and he was a 6'2" point guard, and one of the best players in Massachusetts in high school.
Yep.
I thought I was, hot stuff. Tried to block him from behind, and he just jumped through it. Literally I wasn't there, except I fouled him. Absolutely murdered him. He bricked the ball off the backboard. Dana Dingle got the rebound. I leaked out, caught a breakaway layup, and laid it in. And as I came back down, Kellogg looks at me and goes, "Why don't you call that foul? You called everything else in the scrimmage." He recognized me. And I looked at him and go, "It's pickup. Call your own, man." That was a mistake.
Yeah.
Because he lit me up for the rest of that
I bet.
pickup game. I couldn't do any. I get the ball and he just steal it.
Yeah.
He dribbled down and just blew by me. I think he dunked on me once. He looks, he goes, "Call your own, huh?" If you can stomach it, I would highly recommend if you're a college kid out there, you got kids in college, it's a great gig to work. Like I said, I got paid $33 a game, and if you don't make $600 from one school, it's all tax free. So it was even better. I was getting the equivalent back then of $45 a game or whatever. Now I think it's up to $50, $60 a game or something like that for these guys to get. Anyway, little divergence there from.
That's a good division.
Talk about mortgages, but yeah, that's one of my favorite stories of all time, and I've told that to a couple Division I athletes that played basketball, and they go, "I can totally agree. Every second of that story is accurate because they knew Calipari as a coach.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, we coached against him or whatever. Went to school at some D1 schools, but
he's still doing it too.
Yeah, and everything that was quote unquote not legit is now legit.
Yeah.
Right, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah. So that's my story about that. But we are here not to talk too much about that, but we'll talk a little bit more about mortgages. Do we have somebody that actually called in, or are we?
Yes, we do. If you want to put that headset on.
I got my headset on.
All right, so yes, we do. We have Bernie out in Leominster. He called in.
All right, Bernie.
And Bernie, you are live on the show. Good afternoon, good evening.
All right, Bernie from Leominster. How's it going this evening?
Good afternoon, sir.
What's up, Bernie?
Well, I was hearing Chris talk about the good old days at UMass, and I can remember I was going to ask him if he ever got to meet Lou Rowe.
Yeah, I did. I was in
that's
class
awesome.
with him too.
I was in the alumni section all the time. Or, I'm sorry, the parents section all the time. My son went to UMass, and he was there when they went to the Sweet 16.
Yep.
But I do have a question for Matt back on financing.
Sure.
What's going on, Bernie?
Matt, I just wanted to know what the benefits of a reverse mortgage would be for an individual that owns a home and the home's paid for.
So reverse mortgages get a bad rap, to be honest with you.
They don't get a bad rap. They get a terrible rap.
They get a terrible rap, yeah. And for good reason with some of the old proprietary products. The reverse mortgage today is actually very secure. It's government backed. It's really a great alternative for someone who is retired. Maybe they've had income reduction. Maybe their current mortgage payment is just kind of too much, and they're looking to open up some cash flow. Or in the case where they don't have a mortgage, in a lot of cases, their equity is their biggest asset.
You can't eat your house.
What's that?
You can't eat your house.
That's right. So, trying to pull money out of that asset can be very difficult for someone who cannot meet the ability to repay. So, whenever you're trying to get a cash out refinance, you have to be able to show that you can pay that mortgage back. The reverse mortgage is actually the opposite because there's no mortgage payment on it that you have to make. The interest accrues on top of the mortgage. So you are able to take equity out depending on how old you are, and you could use that equity however you'd like. Now, they don't let you tap it all.
They cap it.
Yeah.
40, 45, 50%.
Yeah, and the older you are, the more you can take. But one of the nice benefits of the reverse now is if we did see a crisis and we did see, values plummet, they'll never let you go underwater. You pay a good amount of mortgage insurance, and that mortgage insurance will protect you in case you ever went underwater. And then the other...
I was under the impression that a reverse mortgage would be a fitted need for someone who needed supplemental income. I really don't think I fit that boat. We have enough in 401ks and IRAs, et cetera, to live comfortable. But the way the mortgage industry is nowadays, it seems like I'm on the Titanic here.
Well, so from the financial advisor's perspective, again, I'm not a reverse mortgage person. I don't get paid to sell them. I don't get paid for my clients to use them. I think they're a really useful tool, given the right set of circumstances. One of the things, and Matt didn't even talk about this one, is 62 is the age you can start to apply for it. One of the best features that I talk to people about it is for people that still have a payment on it, you can stop your mortgage payment.
Right.
Right. So if you're cash flow challenged, it can actually free up money. And one of the things that people will say is, oh, well, that's just kicking the can down the line. Well, yeah, your heirs, or when you sell the house, that, whatever's left will come out of the profits and the proceeds from the sale of the house. However, if you are fiscally challenged and you're looking at your retirement and you're saying, I don't have enough to get through retirement, Well, if you're 63 years old and you plan on working another 8 years, and you can stop your mortgage payment of $1,000, $1,500 a month and throw that in a retirement account instead, well, that's $12,000 to $18,000 a year plus interest. And now all of a sudden you're talking about 10 years. Oh, wait, that's $120,000 that you're able to.
I got to reiterate that the question I asked was based on the idea that the mortgage was already paid for.
Yep.
The home was already owned.
Yeah, so you could use it as supplemental income. The way that it works is whatever equity you're allowed to take, you can take a significant portion of that up front at the closing. The rest of it you can't access until 1 year down the road, right? And that additional money is going to sit on a line of credit that has a growth rate. And today the growth rate is anywhere from 8 to 9%, right? So that money is going to grow like an annuity. You can tap into it whenever you like. So supplemental income, you could take a monthly draw on it. You could take lump sums. You could really do whatever you want with that money.
So let's put some numbers behind this. So say your house is worth $500,000, right? You could then say take out a $200,000 reverse mortgage, which means you have access to that $200,000 a little bit today, but most of it in a year.
In 1 year, yep.
Say it grows at 8% per year. That's $16,000 per year it grows at, which means 1 year from today, you would have access to $216,000.
Yep. And your house is appreciating, hopefully.
And is that taxable?
No.
No. So you still get a mortgage interest deduction on your taxes, as far as I'm aware. I don't know when Chris has the CPA on the show.
I won't answer the tax question.
Yeah. And you're not paying interest on what's on the line of credit. You're only paying interest on what you pull off that.
Right. But the line of credit grows at 8% per year. So again,
Yep.
every year you got the $200,000. If you don't tap into that for 4 years, that's 16,000 times 4. That's $64,000 that you have additional access to capital by which you can, if something were to go awry, tap into that you don't have to pay back until the home is sold. At which point in time, if you tapped into it, that would come off the sale.
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. And it was a pleasure speaking with you, too. It's a good thing that I caught this. There was an advertisement on Facebook for WMEX, and the music you guys played is right up my alley.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you for mentioning that, and thank you for listening to this particular show as well, because, hey, it's all tied together, isn't it?
Yeah. Thanks again, Matt. Appreciate the advice.
You got it, Bernie.
You sound like you're totally into that reverse mortgage is something worth thinking about.
I think it's a really good product. I think it gets a bad rap. A lot of people think the bank owns your home all of a sudden. It's not the case at all. The property will flow through the estate like any mortgage would. It's really got a lot of benefits to the right person.
And Bernie,
Okay.
I just want to say thank you as well, because after my UMass story, the next question I was going to ask Matt was about reverse mortgages.
Oh, perfect time.
Those are some great old days at UMass. So all my kids and all my grandkids went there.
Nice. When it has a very fond spot in my heart, and actually my daughter, I don't know if you heard earlier, but she's 13. She was 12 last year. She plays basketball, so I brought her out to a lot of the women's basketball games when they had their wonderful year last year.
Well, I one of the questions I asked UMass alumni to see if they're really, in fact, alumni is have they ever been to Judy's?
Who's been to Judy's, guys? Come on now.
I'm not familiar with Judy. I didn't go to UMass, so
Judy's.
What did they serve? What was the top item there?
Judy's, the bread.
Oh,
The pop-up.
Yeah, sorry. I forgot that one. I was more into
There
the
you
bar
go.
scene back then.
Oh,
Technically, he was still in the bread scene. It was just liquid bread.
oh, he was at the hangar all the time.
Yep,
There it is.
yep. And
Have
actually,
a,
yep. So
have a good night. Thanks for taking my call.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks
Bernie.
for calling
Have a
in.
good one.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny because my 21st birthday, big deal, right? Everybody's 21st birthday, you go out and you hang out. I went to one of the bars there down by the football stadium in Southwest, and for 1 hour there was absolute silence at the bar. No one was talking at the bar.
What?
And you're like, why? What? My 21st birthday was the last episode of Cheers.
Oh,
So everyone at the bar went silent, put on Cheers, and everyone watched the last episode of Cheers.
that
Sounds about right.
Yeah, that's a tough 21st. Great show though.
But hold on, but the show was on from like 8 to 9.
Yeah.
Like really, like 8 to 9, you're not even out anyways, usually.
Right.
Right? So we went out, everyone was like, Cheers, And, it turns out it was my birthday as well. It turned out really well because everyone was like, oh, it's your birthday. What a great way to remember your birthday by. So, yeah, it was also finals week, though. Oh, that was the bad part.
Oh, that's tough.
But,
Jeez, making me feel like my 21st was uneventful. I went out with the family, forgot it was even my 21st, and ordered a soda. That's how uninterested in the concept I was at the time, at least.
I woke up and had to remind my parents that it was my 21st. We weren't a big birthday family, and we sat at the kitchen counter. I let it sit for a half an hour or so. Then I finally said, "Do you guys know what day it is?" And my father said Wednesday. So
That's right. That's real love right there. I love it.
well, yeah.
Congratulations. What do you want, a cake?
yeah,
He made up for it. He got you in the business a couple years later,
that's
right?
right. Yeah,
Yep. Your parents show you love in all sorts of different ways that you don't necessarily always think about.
yeah.
Right. Like I look back at some of the stuff my parents did and I was like, why the hell did they do that? And now I'm like, oh, there's a good reason why they did that.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Like, and again, I talk about my daughter. I was actually talking with someone else today about how money isn't taught in families anymore. Right. It's kind of become a taboo thing to talk about.
Yep.
How do you deal with money? I tell people all the time, my daughter, again, she's 13 years old. At the age of 4, she bought her own iPad.
Wow.
She saved $750 to buy her own iPad. She did cans. So, we recycled cans, and whenever she put it in, she got a nickel. It's a lot of nickels, but she also, her birthday's in October, and for her birthday, she asked her grandparents, grandparents like, what do you want for your birthday? Money. My mom cut her a $250 check. I was like, here, great.
Sold.
There you go. Yeah.
Like, here you go. And then Christmas is right around the corner. Again, what does she want? Money. She got like $750 within 4 months.
Yeah.
Didn't spend any of it. And then me and her mom looked at each other and were like, she actually saved enough for an iPad.
That's incredible.
We got to buy
Well
her an
done.
iPad.
Yeah.
No. You got to help her buy her iPad.
So it's funny. My son is the same way, and he's an 8th grader, so he's a year older than her. And he saves his money, and he actually invests them in sports cards, and then he turns around and sells them on eBay. So he's run his own little entrepreneurial business with flipping cards. And today he finished up the yard work, hustled through 25 bags of leaves, and earned his money. So,
Because you actually said last week, like Matt and I are in a networking group, and he said, yeah, my kid's trying to, what are you trying to change the rate on you for doing
yeah.
leaves?
Well, that's the other thing. He also renegotiated after I set the price, and tried to get a lot more out of me. Oh yeah, no, he's sharp. So he knows what he's doing.
Dad, the going rate of $5 per bag has been greatly appreciated, but due to recent inflation costs, it's going to be $50 now.
Right.
Pretty close to accurate numbers too.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I'm gonna do this for $15 an hour. Okay, great. No, I want to do it for 50. Yeah, right.
Well, he did try to charge me $50 an hour.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I had to explain to him what minimum wage was. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think we even have a sound effect for this. Maybe? No. Hold. This one.
Cha-ching.
Well, there's the back end of it.
Ah, all right.
All
But
right,
no,
one more time for the whole kitty. There we go.
all right. Yeah, but money is something that our culture, we talk about wanting money, and everyone talks about how much money they make.
Yep.
I always say it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep.
Which in this day is not a lot.
It's hard.
Hard doesn't even begin to cover it. We could have a whole nother week long of series about this one.
Right, but it comes down to something you said a little while ago in the first half hour. If you can get $100 and pay $10, why wouldn't you do that every day of the week?
Yeah.
But a lot of the times I hate to use this word, the narrative.
Narrative. Oh, geez.
Of our culture is you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't. I always tell people whenever I'm talking to them, they go, "What should I do with my money?" I say, "I don't know." And they go, "What?" I'm like, they go, "You're a financial advisor." I'm like, until I get into it and look at it, I have no idea what to recommend to you.
Right.
I have no idea if as Bernie asked about reverse mortgages, I have no idea if it's actually good for him. I don't know if he needs it.
Well, that's
until
the
we
thing.
look at it.
Yeah, a reverse isn't for everyone. You
No.
know, I mean, certain products are not for everyone. Not
Because they're tools. They're not products.
right.
Right.
And I'd say 5 years ago we did a lot of 7/1 adjustable rate mortgages.
What's a 7/1?
So a 7/1 arm would be where you're fixed for 7 years and then it adjusts every year after that, depending on a different index in the market. At the time, great product. And I told everyone, I said, if you have a 5-year plan and you know you're going to be out of this home in 5 years, take a 7/1 arm. Because one of two things is going to happen. You're not going to be out in 5 years, and you're going to need an extra 2 years to
Figure it out.
To figure it out. Or you are going to be out, and you just took a lower interest rate over that time. Since then, adjustable rate mortgages have not been competitive like they were back then. Right, so for the last 4 years, a 30-year fix was a better rate than any adjustable rate mortgage. So, it's not really a conversation we have much anymore. But again, it's finding the right tool that fits your portfolio and your profile.
Your circumstances.
Yep.
Yeah. Because when that's why, and I say this to people, when your friend tells you that the best thing to do with your money is X. The best thing to do with your money is what's the best thing to do with your money, not necessarily what they're doing.
Right.
Right. It's kind of like, and Bernie talked about the Facebook ad. If you look at your friends' profiles on Facebook, what they're doing is maybe not what you should be doing.
Right. Absolutely.
But we're getting up to the last couple minutes here. Matt, you want to give people the way to get in touch with you in case they got any follow-up questions, comments, concerns, cheap shots?
Yeah, so like I said, we're located in Quincy. We're at 2 Adams Place, across from the Volkswagen dealership near Braintree Hill Office Park. Funny story, we're actually considered a Braintree business.
Right.
But since the driveway is in Quincy, because we're right on the line, we have to have a Quincy address.
Yeah,
So-
that's a weird building. I
Very strange
worked out of
building.
there for a while.
Yep. So we're at 2 Adams Place, Suite 410, 4th floor. Direct number there is 781-849-1118. www.mbamortgageteam.com is the website. We'd love to hear from you guys.
And you'll be here third Tuesday of the month?
Third Tuesday of every month. I got it penciled off.
Nice.
I structured my basketball practices around it, so.
Take note, kids. That's how you do it.
You got to, I'm sitting here. I ate Wendy's at about 5:50 p.m. Because my daughter had piano today and then basketball practice from 4:30 to 5:30. And we huffed it across town to get here. But appreciate you being here this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Looking
been a
forward
lot of fun.
to seeing you 10 pounds heavier after Thanksgiving.
For sure.
I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday and is safe and enjoys. And I will be back here next week to talk about insurance. Get ready for the tryptophan snooze on that one, right? So, all right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.